The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Insight Pitch with Skip Lockwood. I'm Ralph Tyko with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. And Skip is here. How are you, my friend?
Good evening, Ralph. How are you?
I can't complain, as I'm on borrowed time, as we all are.
Don't say that. We're the same age.
Yeah. I heard somewhere that, although I'm 71, that I shouldn't feel that badly because 71 is the new 69. So it's
you've got to be
I don't
happy.
think we're going to beat mortality. All we can do is hope to contain it. We're not going to beat mortality.
You need to find happiness in your life.
Absolutely.
You can be happy and you can be satisfied and pay a few bills. Getting older is a little bit like finding wisdom. You know, my children, when they grew up, I got on their case about school and about driving and about a lot of things. And then when they get older and older, they found out that I was right. And I actually had some knowledge to give them, even though they couldn't see it or couldn't take it at the time.
Yeah, they resist it until they get old enough to get their own wisdom, acquire their own wisdom. And
you can hear your words coming out of them.
Yes, absolutely. And then I don't know if you're a granddad yet.
I am. I'm a grandfather 4 times. I have two little boys and 2 little girls, all under the age of 6. 1 little granddaughter in Florida, and 3 grandchildren up in New Hampshire. So I do a lot of babysitting for the one that's in Florida while I'm down here. And
how is the dynamics different from what you pass along to your grandkids as it was to your kids?
Oh, it's much different. So my job as a grandfather is to bring the sweets and the ice cream and the candy and never say no. So that's my job to spoil them.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Sometimes when you hear words out of your kids' mouths towards your grandchildren, their children, do you sometimes smile and say, well, I used to say it just the way you do, and you didn't like it when I said it just the way you do.
It's very interesting gene pool to see how different the children are. I have 5 children, and they are all very different children. Some are in sports, some could care less. The jobs that they chose to take, the spouses they chose to meet and marry, everybody has chosen different things. But I can see my grandchildren are little mini-me's of my kids. They're in many ways the same facial expressions. My little granddaughter tosses her hair the same way as my daughter did when she was about the same age. It's just hilarious to see that. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that sounds cool as hell. My kid is going to be 28, and given his upbringing, I don't know if he's going to be in such a hurry to get married and have kids. Just a guess, but we'll see. We'll see what that brings. I already see pictures, old pictures that I've had recently brought out of a box of me at age 28, and I look at him and I go, wow, you know, absolutely identical. And he's got, you know, we tried not to pass on, both of us, his mom and I, all of our neurosis to the kids, knowing that they get their fair share from each other. Or
that's funny.
Both of us. And we passed on some of the good parts, some of the some of the not so good parts. It just all goes with it, and you get what you get. You do the best you can, and live with the results. That's the way I look at it. And
I'm going to make it a point.
They bring you
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What?
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I interrupted.
I'm going to try to make it a point to make my grandchildren's baseball fans. They're into it now. My little grandboys up north are playing in the backyard. They're playing in the driveway. They've got little plastic gloves. They're signed up for T-ball. It's funny to see the excitement and the enthusiasm in their eyes. They just light up. And when you talk about baseball, and they'll sit and they'll watch a game with me, and they get confused, by the game and confused about the sides and what colors the uniforms are. And my little 5-year-old asked me if I really knew Andrew Benintendi. And I said, yeah, I do. I do know Andrew Benintendi. And then he stopped for a second and he said, and Mookie Betts? At the same time. So it's cute. And
passing that kind of thing on to a grandchild reminds me of my grandfather passing on baseball to me, and the joy he got out of it, and the look in his eye. And that's the bonding you want with future generations. And that's beautiful. Because really, baseball, as Roy Campanella said, it's a little boy's game. That's all it is we're all little boys in man's bodies. And the more little boy one can leave in a male, and a little girl in a female, all their lives, the little girl in them, when it comes out, the little boy, the joy, the unbridled joy that you see. And, traditionally in the Christian judo situation, they try to hammer that out of you. You're a man now. You're this, that, and the other thing. You're a grown-up. Being a little kid's not the Peter Pan thing's not all that bad when you start to think about it.
You're absolutely right. And I know you want to talk a little bit tonight about the phenomenal pitcher that the Angels have, and I'd like to talk about that.
I would, because he reminds me of you in the sense that he literally made the big leagues as both a pitcher and a position player, and there are so few in history. Being a world-class athlete is one thing, but in essence, doing it in either two sports or two positions is incredible. And so you helped set the groundwork for that on some level, being a part of the history of baseball. And what do you see in him that makes him absolutely a phenom?
Well, some of it is that little boy joy. I never played in Japan. I only played in the States. But I believe that coming up in Japan, there's so many kids, like the United States, there's so many kids that want to play. There's so many little league teams and so many places where they can play. And the Japanese culture, as you know, honors and reveres wisdom and age. And I can just imagine that this young man came up, in full view of his parents and his grandparents, and getting their support, and being a phenomenal player as he came up. They must have been just awestruck and bewildered by how good he got at such a young age, and to watch him mature. It must have been a joy. I know it was for my father when I came up and he could watch the Little League, and to have a whole culture, a whole continent, watching you play and being so gifted and so talented. It must be extraordinary. He brings a lot, because he's, Japanese player. He brings the notoriety. He brings another culture with him, another, TV revenue audience with him. But I bet if you ask the manager, Bob Melvin, or the new pitching coach, Charles Nagy, if you ask them what most they like about a young man like this, I bet you they would tell you his enthusiasm. His approach to the game, the way he goes out there. This is a kid that hasn't got any marks on him right now. He's a kid that came to this country with his eyes wide open and his mouth open, and to have him here and be able to respond in his first game, the way he did, sell out, for the A's is a big deal. And to get him to pitch well, must have been
the way he transcended spring training, his poor stats, both offensively and pitching in spring training, and didn't let that bother him. There's no way to tell in the spring by stats who's going to succeed in both as teams and individually during the year, is there, Skip?
Yeah, I don't think so. It was always just a loosening up. The spring training was calisthenics. It was getting ready to pitch. It was getting your arm loose. It was experimenting with some pitches you might have thought about over the winter to try to latch on to a second or third pitch. It's talking to the other pitchers to get a sense of how they were doing and how to start the season. I never took away very much from spring training. It was an exercise, much like a calisthenic, and it's like the bullpen. You warm up in the bullpen. It doesn't matter if you throw all strikes or if your curveball's really sharp in the bullpen. It only matters what you take across the line. And once the national anthem sings and you go across the line, it's different. The way you release it, the way the ball feels, the seams on the baseball, they feel different in the game. The lights are different.
Right.
It's a different kettle of fish.
How much of that is just the adrenaline of the bell ringing and the stats are going to be on your baseball card?
Well, it is the first game. Of course, we talked about this in a previous show. The first game is something that you think about sometimes all winter. You're going to pitch, weeks ahead of the first game, first pitch. For him, I don't know if he knew he was going to start or how they told him, but it's very exciting. And to try to take and say what's adrenaline and what's natural talent, it's hard to measure. Yogi Berra said it was 90% mental and the other half was physical talent. Adrenaline carries you a long way. Getting out there and trying too hard, striding out too far, trying to throw at 102, not 101. Those are things that can get you in trouble. So I think what the A's have to do with this young man is build a
well,
home
it's
for him.
the Angels.
Yeah, what the Angels have to do is
I thought you said
build
the
a
A's
home
for a second. I'm sorry.
And make him feel as comfortable as he can with his surroundings and with his food. I don't know how facile he is with the language. Trying to build a community around him to help him. I don't think plunking him down in a hotel room, someplace, near the ballpark is a good thing for him. Maybe there's a Japanese community around or a place where he can find people that speak his language and the food is different. That they have to do their best to give this kid a community so that he can feel as much like home. Now maybe his family is with him. Maybe they brought his family over here with him, which would have been a good idea.
Well, I know what they did bring. They brought 20 press people from Japan. So he's got pressures that we can't even conceive of, given the culture of success and failure in Japan. Not that it's not prevalent here as well, but they take it a little further. So that's something to think about. But he does, on the plus side, he's got Ichiro's success to look at. So he knows that it's possible. And I wonder if Ichiro has counseled him, or if they've met, or just curious about that.
I assume they have.
Yeah.
The thing I like about the hiring of Nagy as the pitching coach is that the general manager, Epler, and they have a special assistant, Marcel Lachemann, who
one of the three Lachemann brothers who came up in Compton and were just very, very instrumental in minor league development in the 80s and 90s when I worked for Topps. And three tremendous guys.
I know Marcel very well. I played with Rene. These guys were catchers. They were deep thinkers. They knew the game very well. Marcel has been in baseball for, it's got to be 50, 60 years now.
There's an older brother. There's an older brother. I think he's Bill Lachemann, if I'm not mistaken. A long-time minor league instructor as well. Three Canadian guys, as you say. You go back to your A's days coming up with him, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I did. He and I share a baseball card with Catfish Hunter and Blue Moon Odom, the four rookies on a baseball card that actually is worth something today, which is very nice. Rene Lachemann is a good guy, a good catcher. The pitchers get a lot of feedback from their catcher. You and I have talked about this in past shows. It's not just putting down the sign and chasing foul balls. The pitcher-catcher relationship is very symbiotic. The pitcher has to rely on and have confidence in the catcher's calling the signs and the location of the pitch. This guy is coming to this country not knowing these hitters, and the catchers that they give to him that catch the game, and even in the bullpen and everything, these are always steps towards him going out to the mound. Very important for this young man to have an environment where he can feel the most at home, and the catcher is one of the pivotal ingredients here.
Well, he's got Sosha with all that big league experience catching as a mentor. That's got to help. And I'll ask you, there is a high preponderance of catchers, former catchers, that are pitching coaches. Am I correct?
Oh, I think that it definitely is. I used to joke about it that they couldn't find any jobs on the outside of baseball, so they had to go back and be managers and coaches. But my affection for Joe Torre. There's an awful lot of catchers that have come back and been great coaches and managers. It seems to me the catcher has the whole game in front of him. Where everybody else, there's blind spots and there's people behind you. The catcher seems to have the whole game in front of him. And just being able to prepare with the catcher and go through the game, go through the hitters, I have confidence that that's the way you're going to approach each one.
Well, Skip, let me ask you this then. Conversely, because a catcher can look at a pitcher and see mechanical flaws, breakdowns, changes, this, that, and the other thing, be a great pitching coach from that standpoint. Why is it there aren't more former pitchers that are batting coaches? Because it could work the same. You could see things in a batter, how he could be gotten out that maybe another batter couldn't see from your vantage point as a pitcher. Am I making sense?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely, you are. I understand completely. It's a question I've never really understood. Pitchers have a single talent. They can throw the ball over the plate, and they can hit a mitt from 60 feet away. They can pitch every day if need be. They have a singular talent, where the other players on the team have to be more multidimensional, to be able to run and catch and throw and run the bases and bat. And
exactly why I admire you and Ohante in the same way. To be able to do both is absolutely incredible to me. Just an average kid growing up, you have no idea. You said to hit a glove at 60 feet away. Try that someday at home, kids, from a mound with something on it. And by the way, don't walk them, but don't give them anything.
Right. Throw strikes, don't walk them.
Right.
I've met a lot of pitchers, Ralph, and I'm guilty of this as well, that wouldn't try to pitch the corners of the plate. The pitcher, at least I did this when I played, when I was playing well, is I would try to throw to the middle of the plate and let the movement of the ball take it where it was going to go. So I would throw a cross-seam fastball to the middle of the plate and let the life on that fastball take it to the corner. Or I would throw it to the middle of the plate and let the sinking action of the ball take it in on the guy's hands if he was a right-handed hitter. I wouldn't.
So what you're saying, you're elaborating on what you talked about in previous shows about the grip and how important it is to have strong hands and an intensity focused on the energy of putting your hands gripping that baseball. Am I correct?
A 98 mile an hour fastball is a wonderful gift. But if it's straight and the guys can pick it up early, they might miss it the first time around the order. They might miss it the first time around the league, but they're going to find it because it's straight. If you have a 90 mile an hour fastball that has life to it, and the ball has a second soul, has a second life to it, and dips and darts and sinks, you're going to go farther, I think, than a guy. And I look at the guy like Chapman that threw so hard, it was just unbelievable. But if he was going to pitch more than a couple innings, guys can find that pitch. They can gear up. They can start it a little bit early. They're looking for one pitch. They're looking dead red. They're looking for that fastball. And guys, and maybe they won't pull it, but they can get a bat on it. The life that you have on your pitches is the grip pressure. It's the seam. It's how it feels on the tip of your fingers, and how you locate your thumb underneath the ball, and whether the thumb creeps up sometimes on the side of the ball, then make it cut a little bit more.
Skip, what can a kid do to build up his hands that way? If you're a kid playing ball or pitching coming up, what can a kid do? Could he just always be holding that ball and always be just, working the hell out of a ball, whether he's on the field or not? Did you take a baseball home or to the hotel?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I still have a baseball.
Okay.
I have a baseball in the car. I drive with a baseball in the car. I think your hands have got to find a position on the baseball that's comfortable. You know, a little hand's not going to feel the same way as a bigger hand on the baseball. The ball's going to feel different. But if you play catch, what I encourage kids to do is, first of all, if you don't shave, don't throw a breaking ball. If you don't shave yet, your growth plates are not closed. I don't think it's a good idea for you to twist, you know, or that baseball, try to throw a slider or curveball. I think you can wait until you get a little bit older. But what you can do,
Skip, that's incredibly well said. You didn't put an age on it. You didn't say don't throw a baseball, a curveball, unless you're 14, 15, 16, or whatever, because all kids develop differently. And one kid at 14 might, in fact, be shaving and what have you. That's really very well said. I must interrupt you to tell you that.
Well, thank you, Ralph. The love of pitching comes from getting some mechanics and getting your arms stronger. Throwing from the outfield and throwing from the infield as a young boy is different than learning how to pitch. You know, a lot of kids will play shortstop and pitch. You know, even in high school, you'll be a position player as well as a pitcher.
Right.
And, you know, what I really encourage young men to do is throw for distance. So if everything you throw is 60 feet 6 inches, you know, it's like a goldfish in a bowl. You're only going to get so good. You're only going to grow so big. But if you're throwing from a distance, if you're throwing from the outfield, if you're throwing 90 feet, throwing 100 feet, your arm's going to get stronger. It's going to get longer. You're going to see the ball spin more. You can watch the ball as it carries. It's trying to get carry onto the baseball. So I very much encourage, if you're just a pitcher in Little League or high school, spot in the outfield and throw the ball back and forth with the other pitchers, or throw the ball in. You know, when the ball gets hit to you, get that strength in your arm comes from elongating your catch from your.
So other than the curveball, you're not in favor of coddling a kid's arm. You're old school in the sense that you build it up and you want to extend the kid's innings as opposed to limit them.
Yeah, they have a rule. I think in Little League now you can only pitch a certain amount of innings every week. So I don't think that carries over into Babe Ruth, and I know it doesn't carry over into high school. But
right.
The coach, you know, the coach has got to be the person that can monitor. But the kid knows if you're having soreness in your elbow or soreness in your shoulder, those are different pains. You know, the soreness in your elbow is probably just something mechanical. You're doing something wrong. Your foot position or your arm location is wrong. But pain in your shoulder is much more serious in my mind. And a lot of kids will ice down. You know, after you have a hematoma, you sprain your ankle, you can ice it. You pitch a little bit, your elbow's sore, and you can ice it down. But if you have pain in your shoulder, I think that's a telltale sign that something's wrong there. And you should slow down or rest it. Where pain in the elbow, I don't think is as bad.
Skip, did you have a serious injury in your career?
Well, you know, I almost cut my arm off when I was about 5. And that was a very serious injury. I fell through a window. And I went to jump on a couch, lost my balance. The couch was next to a window, and it was one of those single pane windows, and I go through it, and my glass comes down and cuts me.
Wow.
My father was told by the doctor that I wouldn't use the arm properly, ever. and made a crude joke about, you'd probably see me at Fenway Park someday, a very, satirical kind of a joke. But my father got 2 gloves and we played, and by the time I was 6, the scar was going away and I was pitching and throwing as good as anybody. And by the time
now this was your pitching arm that was injured.
Yeah. In the inside of the pitching arm. So, you work around your injuries. You're given a deck of cards and you play them. If you're a young boy and you have big dreams, then you can picture yourself as a major leaguer, and the picture that you envision for yourself is vivid and it's colorful and you believe it. Injuries don't slow you down. They make you stronger.
Very well said. Very well said. Skip, terrific show today. Thank you very much. I am honored. This is working out well, and we'll do it next week, same time, same bat channel. How about that?
Sounds wonderful. Thank you very much, Ralph. Take care.
Be well. Have a great week, and if you're listening out there, folks, Skip Lockwood, the name of the show is Insight Pitch. The name of the network is the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all. Adios, everybody.
Adios. There you go.